Three of building in public, adding a video editing agent to my OpenClaw system. I'm at home, so I'm able to speak out loud on this one. And I still need to refine sort of the silent live streaming, but I kind of enjoyed it. I don't know, maybe everybody else hates it. Not even sure who's even watching these, but I do want to get advanced farther along on my editing agent today. I got about 45 minutes to do this, so we're just gonna dive straight in. I need to make one note about something that I had on my mind a second ago, and that was, okay, that's enough of that. All right, so we are continuing with an agent that I'm going to be calling Anne Black. She's named after Rebecca Pidgeon's character in the movie State and Maine. And that character is not an editor, but there is no editor on the film crew that's part of the story, really. And she would be the person that would be closest to sort of serving in that role, I guess. I just thought I might have other filmmaking agents later, and I would want to name them after other characters in that film because that's one of my favorite movies about filmmaking. Um, but anyway, and I wanted a female character. I wanted someone that I could immediately picture and envision, and someone that I liked. And yeah, so that's how I arrived at Anne Black. And it actually, even though this has an E at the end of her name, there is no E. It's just A-N-N Black. So that's who Anne Black is. Fictional character based on Rebecca Pidgeon's character from. Oh, and I was pointing at something you can't see. So, okay, maybe you couldn't hear a thing I said until just now. I guess I really won't know until I go and look at the live stream. But anyway, I'm rereading Richard's answer from the end of yesterday, and he's saying, okay, he's read the transcript. The idea is coherent. Anne is really an assistant editor first and a complete post-production department later. What Anne ultimately does, she's going to create or open a resolved project, yes. Ingest footage, scripts, external audio, and approved music, yes. Organize bins and metadata, yes. Synchronize dual system audio when needed, yes. That'll be a little further down the line, but so it doesn't need to be a first phase thing, but I do want her to be able to do that eventually. Create separate dailies, assembly, and rough cut timelines, yes. Compare performances against the script, yes. And this is the thing where, what's her taste going to be like? If I have her pick music for the video, what is her taste in music going to be like? How does she suss out the vibe and the tone and what kind of piece she should use? You know, I mean, ultimately an agent is working in data, you know, and so they need metadata, or they need keywords, things like that. So it'd be interesting to see. I probably will still have to make some of those general choices and just say, look, here's 5 songs that you can use, and we'll tag them ourselves or whatever. I don't know how we'll do that. We'll figure that out. So number 6, comparing performances against the script, is going to be kind of the same thing. She's going to make some choices. And it may just simply be, I start with choose the last take by default. I mean, because if I get it right, then why would I do it again? Kind of, right? But sometimes I do try to do it again and think, you know what, it was better the last time. So yeah, we'll just have to kind of figure out how we do that. Remove pauses, stumbles, restarts, and weaker takes. Yes. Stop for your review inside Resolve. Yes. And so we'll have the workflow, and it'll be, I guess, a collection of skills or something. And then at some point, she will notify me via Telegram here. I'll have her set up just like I have Richard set up here, and she'll say, hey, I'm watching OBS disconnect and reconnect. So if I need to get on Resolve, I can get on my iPad, I can get on my MacBook Air, or I can get on the Mac Studio, which is where all the agents are living. And so when she's using Resolve, she'll be using it on the Mac Studio. Because we'll be using Blackmagic Cloud and proxies and all that, I ought to be able to pull it up, like I said, on my iPad and my Air, and be able to edit. Then I'll hand it back to her. And so that's number 8, stop for your review inside Resolve. So I'll do whatever I do, and then I'll send it back. Incorporate your changes without overriding reviewed work. Yes. And then finish captions, titles, reframing, motion graphics, color, sound, and music. Yeah, if you go look at my YouTube and look at any of the shorts that I did beginning in the fall of last year, I did some like scripture-based little short videos. Put them also on Instagram, TikTok. Basically what I would do is I would just record me sitting in my office in there with the cool lighting, and I would read the script that I'd written for myself, you know, just off of the teleprompter that's inside the Edits app in Instagram. And I would create one long video, and then I would just chop it up. And man, I would spend a lot of time chopping it up and getting it all, you know, nudged in, and then putting some just real basic captions on it. But then with each cut, I would want to like change the zoom a little bit, you know. So I'm not cutting from different shots to different shots. I'm just chopping up a single shot. And the first application for this I need is going to be exactly that. It is for my friend that has a website about space. It's called finalfrontierreport.com if you want to check it out. And we're creating some videos that are just about the space industry. And so the idea is, once we get up and running, is that every morning I would record a quick video, and I'd send the video to Anne Black, and she would chop it up, and then it would be ready to post within, you know, however long it takes her to do that. And it will be the same thing. It'll be me reading the script from the teleprompter. It'd be one long take that needs to be chopped up and shortened. And so this is, I think that's a simple thing that we can build. Doesn't require a huge amount of like taste and all that stuff. We just say, hey, here's some approved music, get rid of the stutters, use the final take of everything. I'll get better at presenting the more that I do and all that stuff. So I think she'll be really great for that, and just take editing those kinds of social media things off my hands. Also, what I want her to do is to take, you know, a live stream like this find little 30-second jewels or like a little 10-second joke or meme or something like that from this whole 45-minute live stream, pluck that out, make it vertical, and prepare it for Instagram, TikTok, whatever. So I just have, lots of content that I can put out every day on TikTok. I can produce, 2 or 3 things a day. I can do whatever YouTube Shorts wants. I know a lot of YouTubers don't even want the hate shorts, but I got lots of views from YouTube Shorts in the last several months, so I'm going to use them. Instagram kind of only wants you to do 1 or 2 things a day, I think. I think Reels is a little different from like a grid post, but anyway, my marketing guy will figure all that out. But anyway, for the basic social stuff, I think this agent should be able to do, what I'd like for it to do. Okay, so that's it. That's 10. Finishing the captions, the titles, reframing, motion graphics, color, sound, and music. 11, render approved deliverables. So that's the deliver page, just exporting the finished files and putting them somewhere that the marketing team can find them to either, for the space videos, to send them to my friend so that he can post them, or if he puts my team in charge of that so that we can post those where they need to go and have the access to that and everything. And that's number 12 here, then hand them to Don's team for publishing. So that's the whole pipeline. 30,000 foot view, very simplified, but yes. And I think if we go sort of 1 through 12 building these, I think that that's probably the way to go. So let's keep reading. That is the right broad version. It should be built in stages. The right first version. The smallest genuinely useful version ends at the rough cut. And this is one thing that I said from the live stream the other night. So in other words, she would bring in the raw file from Dropbox and she would organize it with the script and whatever else. And then she would chop it up and go ahead and do dailies, do an assembly, and do rough cut for me. That I can go in and take a look at. So 1 controlled Dropbox intake folder, 1 local Resolve Studio project, script or beat sheet when available, because not all these will have a script. Like this live stream has no script, as you can tell. And so there will be no script for her to cut to. She will just have to make a transcript for herself and figure out what are the most interesting moments here. But the things like the space videos do have a script. We have another agent that pulls news and makes a script. I don't just read the ChatGPT script off the screen, but that is the basis of that's where I'm getting the information from, So I will read it. I will change it a little. I will just say, oh, here, this is interesting, and I'll read the thing. OBS disconnecting, reconnecting. So 1 controlled Dropbox intake folder, 1 local Resolve Studio project, script or beat sheet when available, organized media and bins, immutable dailies timeline, assembly timeline, version to rough cut timeline, review, render, and edit report, mandatory handoff to you. So I agree, this is the right first version. Until we can get to a rough cut, this isn't terribly useful for me. Now, creating a project, bringing it in, getting stuff organized, putting it in bins, that's still useful, but the really useful thing is like, get me to a rough cut. Get all the unusable stuff out of the way at least. If you can at least turn my editing from 30 minutes into 10 minutes, that's huge. Let's do that. I don't even care if she's slow at it because I'll be doing other things while she's doing this, right? Okay. So even though I could do it faster, possibly, I still want her to do it because she can do it while I'm not looking over her shoulder. I recommend testing this first with 1 short scripted single camera. He's right. Best to start with these space videos. I already have I think 3 of them that I filmed. We have like 17 more ready to be filmed for a total of 20. So we've got plenty to work with. We got the 3 I've already shot to kind of get started with. When that's kind of working, I'll go shoot a couple more and we'll try that. And then when we know, hey, this is working pretty well, then I'll just start shooting all the rest of them. And then possibly maybe just do one every morning. We'll see how that goes. Okay, Rachel's long interview should be the second workflow. Live stream to social clip discovery should be third. So that's my live stream to social clip discovery should be third. Okay, I think that's a good plan. I agree. They require different editorial judgment and should not be treated as the same initial problem. That's correct. All right, how the system should be divided. I would not create one enormous video editing skill, but I would also not make every click its own skill. I agree with that. The clean structure is atomic MCP tools, import clip, create bin, append range, duplicate timeline, add marker, render review, and so forth. All right, so I guess each of those things is a tool. So in the same way that OpenClaw agent makes a tool call for writing a file or reading a file or creating a folder, what he's saying here is we will make our own sort of MCP tools for each of those little tiny things. Not a full-on skill, but a little tool, so that she knows immediately how to do those specific things. And some of this will be helped by the fact that DaVinci Resolve, particularly version 21, which like I said, I need to upgrade to. The version 21 has a lot of Python and scripting and stuff like that built into it. So we ought to be able to make these tools pretty easily with just little scripts and things, I think, most of them. Workflow skills is the next thing. So workflow skills is project intake, ingest and organization, synchronization and dailies, assembly and rough cut, finishing and delivery. So the skills that we write will not be real granular. Those will be the tools, but it won't be broad edit this video either. Instead, it will have pieces of the workflow. For instance, creating a new project can be a skill because no matter what the project is, creating the project is all kind of the same. So that could be a skill. Ingesting footage and organizing it into bins, that could be a skill, or maybe ingesting and organizing are separate skills. I don't know. But basically that's going to be the same no matter what the project is, no matter what type of project it is, right? It only starts to differ when we have dual system sound or when we have longer videos versus short videos, when there's a script versus not, when it's a social video versus some kind of short film or something, right? So, but the skills that can be applied to all, we'll break those into sort of their own skills. So that's the workflow skills he's talking about here. Let's make skills for big pieces of workflow that can apply to multiple projects, and then we'll break out smaller skills for the things that are particular for the particular projects. And so then the next thing he has here is project profiles, client-specific style, aspect ratios, titles, pacing, music rules, export specifications, and publishing destination. So essentially, we would create not really a preset, but like he says, a profile. We would say, hey, for all the Final Frontier Report videos, this is how this needs to be. It needs to be vertical. We need to use this music. It needs to have these kind of captions. We need to only use these images. You need to only pull from this Notion database. The scripts are always here, whatever, that kind of thing. Hey, for Rachel's stuff, hey, all of Rachel's stuff, I put in this place in Notion, and I have in this folder in Dropbox. And we have to ask to use this, that, and the other, or whatever. But for each client, we sort of establish, okay, here are the general rules for editing something for this particular client, even if it's for me. I'm my own client. And also, I have my own versions of products. I mean, I do filmmaking things, but I also do marketing stuff, for my books or for some of this AI stuff. I'm doing these live streams, so I'm doing sort of user-generated content kind of stuff as well. So I have different products as a client for myself. And so I need to have my own profiles based on not just who I am as a client, but also the different products that I want to be putting out, right? Okay, Anne's core role, her judgment, communication style, review behavior, and non-destructive rules. This is ending the section where he says the clean structure is these atomic MCP tools, these workflow skills, these project profiles, and then Anne's core role, which is the big umbrella thing. What is she going to do? How does she make her judgment? How does she communicate with me and when? And how does she review things? When does she give things for me to review? And how does she do things in a non-destructive way? How does she move things to trash without just obliterating stuff? Okay, so the transcripts, dailies to assembly to rough cut distinction is particularly strong. I would make those permanent workflow boundaries and never edits the dailies timeline and never overwrites a version you reviewed. Sure. Important boundaries. This is an elevated authority agent because she will handle client footage, private scripts, licensed assets, project changes, and eventually publishing handoffs. That is manageable, but it requires trash only, never permanent deletion, immutable source media, meaning like if we have an image that we can use from one of these space companies because they've made it available for like the media. Okay, so here's an image they've made public so that we can use it in a little video like this, but we can't change it. We can't turn it into AI or whatever, right? We need to respect what they've given us and use only that. Immutable source material, versioned timelines, access limited to the active project, no arbitrary Python or Lua execution, no cloud upload or publishing without approval. And I would say on both those, the Python thing and the cloud thing, I would say we won't necessarily give her specifics. What we will do is we will give her boundaries. And as long as she's working within those boundaries, if she needs to create a Python something, go for it. If we've given her the ability to upload things to Dropbox or to iCloud or to the Blackmagic Cloud or vice versa to pull things down, if we've given her general boundaries about those things, then she can operate how she needs to within those. But we just want to make sure she's not stepping outside of those boundaries. So that's what this is establishing expectations, but also establishing boundaries. A record of imported files, timeline changes, music licenses, and exports. And so this is, a little earlier he said something about sending a sample clip to review and like an editing report. What did I change? What did I edit? And so this is essentially her keeping a record of every action that she's done, so that if we need to roll back, we can go, no, wait a minute, we went awry here. Can we look back and see what you did? A human being would kind of remember what they did. And so this is her way of sort of remembering all the steps that she took to get us to where we are. I think that's great. I think it's a good idea. Not really something that I had thought of from a logistical technical standpoint. But I think that's right. I think we do need that. Client permission before footage or transcripts go to an external model. That's very important as well. So just because a client gives us something to use in a video does not mean that they have granted us permission to send it to an LLM that may keep the image for some kind of image training or something like that. And so we just need to be aware of the tools that we're using, but also aware of the permissions that we have from the client. So I think all this is spot on so far. Okay. Your naming procedure will help, but it should not force you to become a data entry clerk before every shoot. So one of the things that I said that I have on my list down here, it's not in this image here, but it's on my pad down here. It's behind Telegram. You can't see it, but it's the word nomenclature. I had nomenclature.md. And basically I was saying we need to come up with a naming structure for how we're going to name timelines, how we're going to name bins, how we're going to name projects, and maybe how we need to name media files, which means maybe I need to go into the Blackmagic camera app on my phone and redo our prefixes and stuff like that so that things are named in a way that's going to make this process easier. That's the thing about working with agents is you want them to work how you want to work, but also you realize they're pretty good at doing certain things. And it also helps them if you work in a certain way. So suddenly they're training you how to work also. It's kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the white rats were saying, oh, we got all these brilliant scientists to feed us all the cheese we wanted by doing their little maze, So it's like, who's training who? OBS disconnecting and reconnecting again. One of the things that I've learned by working with these agents is that I want to shape them to work the way that I want them to work, but also I might need to keep track of everything. We try to keep at least a digital record of what we're shooting in the order that we're shooting it. We try to use time of day, time code. That will not, we don't jam sync stuff, and we're not using exact time of day. Not every machine's at the exact same time. But if they're all set to, within a few seconds of each other, then, our clips that are 3 minutes or so, obviously you can tell just by looking at the time they were shot what clips are supposed to go together, right? So also with artificial intelligence, the need to do all these exact things, it's just, you don't need to do it anymore. And so let's not do things the way we've always done them just because that's how we've always done them. But let's do them based on the tools that we have. We have audio synchronization. Don't really need a clapper slate anymore. It is nice to have a slate as the first frame of the video, so we still use one. It's nice in case I have to fix something myself to be able to see that pop in the waveform and to match it with that clapper clap, but don't really need it most of the time. So yeah, so anyway, that's what he's saying is, yeah, you can make some changes that might make it a little more helpful, but the agent will figure it out, is sort of what he's suggesting. So now he has some questions, and I guess that's what we'll spend the rest of our time here answering. So I've got about 18 minutes left before I need to go do something else. So my questions: does the Mac Studio currently have the paid Resolve Studio license? External agent scripting with them. It will get me into a section of the model that will speak like a normal human being instead of reading like a technical manual or a software manual or a developer portal or something. I just want them to talk like a normal human being. And so if I respond to them like a normal human being with please and thank you and that kind of stuff, then they will respond back more like a normal human being because they'll be in a sort of human speech, human conversation part of the model rather than in technical writing part of the model, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe that's just a placebo effect, but it seems to work. For answers to your questions. Okay, so number one, Yes, I have Resolve Studio. No worries there. All right. Oh, we've got automatic numbering in Telegram. That's cool. Okay, number 2. Can Rachel's client footage and transcripts be analyzed by external models, or must they remain local? This materially changes the design. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question. So I will have to ask Rachel. So let me just take this question and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go here to my messages, which you cannot see. And I'm going to go to Rachel here. And I'm going to say, hey, question from Richard. She of your interviews. Of your interviews. And she's probably working, and so I would not expect an immediate answer back, but maybe so. If so. Okay, moving on to number 3. Should Anne always stop after producing a rough cut or eventually continue automatically for familiar project types? He says, I recommend a mandatory stop initially. I will let you know when she responds. Response. Okay, number 3. So this question was, should Anne stop? At first, yes, I want us to walk through everything step by step until we see, till I can see she can definitely do that step on her own with little to no supervision. But the more she can do on her own, the better. If we get to where she can fully edit the FFR, that's the Final Frontier Report, FFR videos on her own, great. That's what I want. Okay, number 4. Which finished videos best represent your desired editing taste? The bookmarked X examples will help, but your own successful edits are even more valuable. All right, so that's a pretty good question. So I had told him that I'd bookmarked some X things about video agents or something like that. I guess he's looked through some of those. I don't think I really had submitted any of those as here's a great example of what I'm trying to create. I don't think. But I do have lots of videos of my own that, particularly for the Final Frontier Report videos, I can point to these scripture videos that I did a couple of months ago, like around just before Easter, and go, this is the style that we're going for. So I will say the last couple of weeks of my YouTube shorts in the Lent for Creatives series is almost exactly what we're going to end up with for FFR. The content is obviously different, so different energy, different music, but same setting, speaking to the camera style, similar editing style, etc., except adding approved pictures and B-roll where useful. My YouTube channel is at Skidmore P. So you can look at the last few shorts before Easter, or you can find the Lent for Creatives videos on the computer somewhere. I don't know where they are, but you'll find them. And look at the most recent 10 or so of those. Okay. 5. Are you comfortable with using Dropbox as the sole intake path for the first version and postponing Blackmagic Cloud? That is my recommendation. That's fine, as it's probably easier for me to upload to from Instagram Edits app anyway. But eventually it will end up in Blackmagic Cloud regardless. So we might as well start there if possible. I feel like it might be more difficult to change it rather than just starting with it. But she needs to be able to import something from anywhere, as images and music, etc., may be in a variety of places. Okay, my text box is getting really long here in Telegram. And so one thing that I've learned to do when I know that I'm going to send a long message, sometimes it breaks into 2 messages and he responds to the first one without knowing that the second one is coming. So I'm going to add this here. And now for answers to your questions, ... long responses that may break across 2 messages. So I will end my response here with end in all caps, END in all caps. And then I'll just make sure that I do that at the end. Okay, so we're done with 5. So now we're on 6. Is internal attribution sufficient? Timeline names such as Ann Ruff VO1 plus an edit report, or do you require Ann to appear as a separate Blackmagic collaborator? Internal attribution avoids the account problem. I really wanted her to have her own account so that I could see sort of what she owns and what she's created and what bin she's working on or whatever. But, you know, I don't think Blackmagic wants us to do that, so that's fine. If Blackmagic does not allow for us to create a Blackmagic Cloud account for bots, agents, then yes, internal naming is fine. Let's not violate any TOS, terms of service, that is, which I haven't read, but Richard will actually read. Isn't that amazing? We're moving into a world in which terms of service are getting absurdly huge and long and covering a lot of areas, but the agents can also read them, so it's all fine. All right, Rachel is responding, but only responding with a question mark. So let's go look and see what she's actually saying. Like these YouTube videos you sent, getting that permission on our releases as we film and audio record people moving forward. By the way, I'll put that in parentheses. All right, hopefully that was clarifying for everyone. Okay, we're still answering. So we just 6, now we're on 7. Should Anne initially choose only from a playlist you have approved? And then he says, I recommend that before allowing independent audio downloads or Firefly generations. I think that's a great place to start. Music selection and music generation can be skilled.